it's going to be a very dry year, and there's problems with stock in a dry year.
Absolutely, yeah. It doesn't take a genius to look outside and see how dry it is underfoot and see how brown it can be when there's been no water hitting the ground. And correspondingly, obviously, the nutritional value of that sort of pasture is very, very low indeed. Very fibrous, no leaf, no sugars, no very, very poor nutrition. And it creates a situation that can cause some major welfare concerns, more major than anything else that's been hitting the headlines recently even. So it's a stressful enough and difficult enough situation for seasoned commercial farmers to deal with, and I really appeal to the small acreage farmers out there to just take heed of what I'm saying. And if it results in having to destock land, well then that's what needs to happen. And it would have been nicer to have been a little bit more forewarned and pre-planned before this stage even, but you know, they have to eat something, and when there's nothing to eat, bad stuff happens, you know. And
they don't look bad because there's a lot of wool on the sheep, for example.
Absolutely. Sheep are the number one problem that we see, especially in small lifestyle block farmers, and often it's because whether it's too much else going on at work or not enough handling facilities, but it's essential that you get a hand on sheep in particular. You really, things are hidden from view with fleece, even short amounts of fleece, and you really do have to palpate or feel over the top line, over the back line of the sheep, over the short rib area, and you know that there's just no way around it. You have to do that.
That leads on to other problems.
Of course. Well, poor nutrition. If the animals do get through a tight space nutritionally during the summer, we often do see secondary issues coming out of drought conditions or dry conditions, in particular parasite problems, which I know we've talked about recently. But the stress of nutritional stress of the summer can result in severe clinical parasitism, even in older animals coming out of a stressed period.
Shade and water.
Shade, number one, and it's more hard to come by now than I'd like. I mean, in the dairy scenario, we've had lots and lots of tree lines cut down to make way for centre pivots and things, and the corresponding loss of shade and shelter is tragic, I think. And I think as far as dry stock farming in particular, it's one of the biggest welfare issues that we have in midsummer. Is you know, shade is a real requirement, and water. I don't know why, but we still have this scenario where people sometimes think that the water requirements for sheep in particular, I don't know why, are lower or negligible, and although we may be surprised at how little free water sheep need to drink when they're eating lush pasture, in conditions like we're seeing out there at the moment, it's just a no-brainer. They need fresh water all the time. Yeah.
Now, tell me about bulls and hooves.
Yep, so it is a time of year, the summertime, where we do tend to see lots of quite severe lameness in bulls or large bovine creatures, steers and things. And we think it's because we end up with very, very dry underfoot conditions, hard conditions, and we get lots of cracking in the toe region of the hoof, and very, very common to see what we call toe abscesses, or an accumulation of pus right in the very toe of the hoof, particularly the forelimbs, the front legs, and it can result in a painful animal that can hardly bear weight. It's a big undertaking. Often we have to drop these animals down to actually deal with it adequately and drain the pus away. So it is a time to maybe, if you can detect mobility or locomotion issues that are quite subtle, it's better to nip things in the bud a bit early, perhaps with some veterinary advice, a bit of antibiotics before we actually get an abscess accumulation really, and make sure hooves are trimmed adequately if they need to be.
Nick, thank you very much indeed. We're counting down to our special on mental health on the land, but in just a moment Jim Greyson's here.